Kongdoo Mounts are going to start on the blue side. We'll not be seeing Rakan, at least. We saw that SKT is totally fine to pick up Xayah without the Rakan. We'll see if one of these teams feels the same way.
And I love that you raised that question, because this season, Songyun and Key, 5-1 on Xayah, 4-1 on Rakan, the Lovers bot lane, and also just Xayah as a power pick has been things the ROX Tigers have done very commonly. And attacking the bot lane and stopping Songyun and Key from getting going has been an approach from many teams. Now, Lava's been able to step up, and just answering ROX's bot lane is not enough to actually fully get the job done against the 2018 ROX Tigers, but it's the most reliable way is if you strip power away from Songyun in particular.
Yeah, for sure. They love to play around Songyun, and also Lava being the target of some bans actually on his own side. No mid Sion, no Galio gonna come in, and of course GP, who I feel like every time I see him, I feel like he is more OP every single time. So won't be seeing that today. Was banned out twice in the earlier series as well.
Very costly ban for Kongdoo Monster, because Roach is 2-0 on the Gangplank, and when they've won a handful of games, 2-0, it's not something you want to have to throw away, but they throw it away. See a Camille ban drawn from that. Stop there from being a Camille in a really good matchup. A lot open. Mid laners untouched outside of the Galio and the Sion. So Ryze versus Azir seems like the mid lane matchup we could end up with.
Yeah. Ed's going to do Lava a favor and take the Ryze away from him. We saw what happens when Lava goes on the Ryze.
That was certainly unfortunate. Lava's shown a lot more strength on the Taliyah, which is also available, so I feel like Taliyah or Azir will be the answer. Jungle Pool is at entirely full power, so we'll see what ROX Tigers want to take. I feel like Raze will be happy to take the Olaf, which has not gotten a victory, but it's looking generally pretty strong for the side of ROX Tigers, for the side of Kongdoo Monster, I should say. And Songwon has played the Olaf a few times, but specifically in that series they lost to MVP. They seem to struggle at closing games with the Olaf, so I'm interested to see which you'll take of the big three, which right now represent the Olaf, the Skarner, and the Sejuani.
Yeah. You mentioned the Azir. Oh, by the way, that's Songyun's parents in the audience. Came down to support him here. Saw them all sitting together as one happy family earlier on.
Well, the jungle matchup seems to be tanks, so thanks very much for that. It's going to be Sejuani versus Zac, as Raze goes back to the pick that once again has shown the most value for the side of Kongdoo. And on paper, they're drafting very, very strong lanes, taking a priority pick Caitlyn. Means it's a blocker pick for something like a Tristana or a Kalista, which are big picks that Songyun prefers to go. Hard to get any laning control against a Caitlyn.
It says here that is KDA 7.4 on the Caitlyn. That's crazy considering that he's 1-3 on the pick. Seemingly, he's been having some good games on the pick, and looking forward to seeing what he can actually do on it in this game as he gets his hands on it once again.
First round of the draft,
yeah.
Super standard, just power picks everywhere. Nobody's really dictating that there's going to be a specific type of comp. For Kongdoo Monster, they have very strong team fighting and laning power, but it's basically laning power everywhere. And now ROX going to try to cut down on Roach's answers. We know that Gnar is probably going to be going to a tank matchup, as Roach has largely avoided the carries this season, whereas Kongdoo Monster can start banning 80 carries if they want to, and try to keep Songyun as accountable as possible.
It's her last LCK before she goes to study abroad in Japan. Feels bad.
Hopefully she can join us on Twitch still.
Yeah.
In that particular regard. We see a lot of exchange students come through the studio watching some LCK. Had some great Kongdoo Monster fans come over from New Zealand.
Yeah.
And, well, they got to see their team play. Unfortunately, not see their team win.
Yeah, well,
they couldn't
were
stay
good
here
in the beginning.
That's true.
Before they left. And, yeah. They enjoyed it while it lasted. Roach is like, Coach, what do I do? They banned all my picks. I can't play Sion, Ornn, or Cho'Gath, or Gangplank. What do I do? Or Camille, I guess. Not that he would, but...
In the history, it has been the Vladimir. So there's a potential for Vladimir, but it'd be very heavy on magic damage coming through on the side of Kongdoo Monster. Tristana ban, and I think they're going to take Xayah as a power pick. I actually would have preferred to see the Xayah ban over the Tristana, which sounds crazy, I'm sure, to some of our fans who haven't been joining us for many match days. But Tristana has been losing lane and been held accountable by Varus and Caitlyn time after time. Sungyun is a master player on the Xayah. So we'll jump into the Xayah despite there being no Rakan to pair with it. Kongdoo Monster, all right.
I don't know what to think about this, Papa. We were talking about how he's
everyone in the LCK taking the Fiora every time?
I don't know. I don't know what it is with the Fiora. Looked good in one game yesterday, if I remember. I forget exactly which game that was, but they were able to get ahead and get the Baron, and it helped out a lot. But this is going to be Roach's first time on the Fiora, and they say, okay, I guess Fiora's strong enough. Our tank top is going to jump onto one of the hardest mechanically based players, or champions rather, in the game.
And it's been a very bizarre second round. So Xayah's taken that part, we understand. The Fiora does kind of take away the general playstyle of the rest of Kongdoo Monster. Previously, they were looking for team fight. Now it's going to be 4-1, playing around the Caitlyn traps and maybe the Realm Warp to launch the Zac into the back line. On the side of ROX Tigers, it's a lot of team fight, but they do go for the relatively weak Shen support. Now, we saw MVP struggle with Shen support a few days ago. I imagine we'll have to be playing very much on the back foot, as Caitlyn will be able to overpower Xayah and Shen in the 2v2. But the Shen does provide an extra tool to help with the top side, because if you get a couple of kills onto the Fiora, rather than Fiora starting her own snowball, then it becomes very difficult to execute, and that's my criticism. The moment you load in the Fiora, you notice the low win rate. It is very hard to execute a Fiora comp, and Kongdoo Monster have had victories in even single games be few and far between. I'm all about ease of execution when it comes to teams that are struggling, and they made it a whole lot harder going for the later Fiora in this game.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it before. There were tons of bans targeted at the top lane. A bunch of the more common picks that Roach likes to go for were taken away, especially Gnar and Ornn, but could have gone for the Vlad, could have gone for, I don't know, something else, even the Shen, before it went over to the other side. You know, Shen into the Gnar is not so bad. It's not great, but deciding to just butt heads in the top lane instead, and I'm excited. We'll see if Roach can actually pull this off.
It's a tricky lane as well. Gnar is definitely not a tank or a Camille for the Fiora. It's just constant ranged auto attacks, so the struggle is going to be real.
That it is. Well, let's see if he can handle it for Kongdoo Monster versus the ROX Tigers, game number 1. Fans have come down. Lots of ROX fans. I feel like they've gained even more with their recent success. So that's pretty cool to see. And also, for a team that's in 10th place, Kongdoo Monster certainly has some very loyal fans. Also nice to see.
It's now been guaranteed that they will see their players again in an off-season tournament, but obviously not the gauntlet they would prefer to see them in. It will be the promotions that's played after the spring final. Looking at this game, Raze is on one of the champions shown the best performance on the Zac, as the Skarner goes unpicked in this particular game. The Olaf as well, both of them falling through picks and bans. ROX were heavily considering going for Thresh to have as much laning power as possible into the Caitlyn, but because the Tahm Kench is such a clean answer to the death sentence, they decide to go for Shen. So it's a much more risky choice in terms of the 2v2. It means that Sungyun and Kia now going to be a little bit more open to being ganked and will be pushed in more reliably because they don't have double ranged. It does mean that if they can just shrug it off and hang back, the playmaking will be there for Key, who often is the chief playmaker for ROX Tigers.
Feels nice to play the Tahm Kench into the Shen. You can easily stack that up and try to go for plays. Notice he did go for Glacial Augment as well as Ignite, just to punish that as much as possible. Similar Ignite matched actually by Key, and neither of those guys have the Unsealed Spellbook, so not going to be able to change it up.
Roach has gone fleet footwork on the Fiora. That's very interesting. First time we're seeing it on patch 8.4. Seen a lot of different keystones messed around with Fiora. Phase Rush. Press the attack, I believe, once, and then more commonly, we've had some other choices come through. The Kleptomancy has been the most common choice recently, but against a ranged opponent, you won't get a lot of Kleptomancy procs, so I can understand going different. I think I would have considered the phase rush here, just to be able to ignore the multitude of slows that are on the side of ROX Tigers, but clearly want to go deeper into the precision tree, did Roach.
Kind of looks like it. So far, he's handling the top lane pretty well before there's any items on the board here. Hasn't taken too much damage, still has a potion to stick in the lane. Misses the cannon, though, as I'm talking good about him. And that minion. Oh, boy.
Wait, change the camera, please, cameraman.
I think I should stop talking about this guy.
He got that one.
That was good. Okay.
It is a pretty awful laning phase for the Fiora into Gnar. After 2 items, it can turn around, but the problem with the Fiora is I like Fiora when she's pushing. If you think of solo queue, we all have to deal with the top lane Yasuo issue, where Yasuo's locked in, and you know, you might have pinged or written about it in the chat, but they locked in the Yasuo, because that's just how it goes. And if your Yasuo is pushing and creating pressure and being ganked, you feel bad about the deaths, but you feel happy that the jungle is being drawn somewhere. If you have Fiora, a lane-dominant champion, just hang back, you're not really getting a lot of value out of it. Songwon, for some reason, has 100 HP. What happened in the jungle? What happened?
He did a full clear, and I guess, you know, the Krugs can be a little bit hard for Sejuani, so...
No, but not that hard.
On the first clear, I should mention.
Not on that hard, though, Valdez.
Yeah, I know. He's, he's having some trouble. He got both of the Scuttle Crabs, though, so there's something.
A big purchase coming his way. Sadly, not a Tracker's Knife.
Yeah, times have changed.
But yeah, if Fiora's not creating lane pressure and needs 2 items to create that lane pressure, then I'm going to say we went too far into the scaling, and Science has definitely gone too far with all these Fiora picks this week. Literally everyone you wouldn't expect to be playing Fiora is playing Fiora. ADD played Fiora, now Roach is playing Fiora. These are some of our tank-only players in the league. Kind of reminds me of a year ago when all the non-Rumble players had to play Rumble, and we saw some, let's say, weird and wonderful equalizers that left a lot. Begged belief is one word to describe them. Raze is soloing the Infernal as Zac. There's quite a lot of mirages and interesting things happening in this game.
We'll see if someone runs into him. Can Raze even do this is the question.
He won't die, probably. He can smite it early.
Yeah.
He won't die, but yeah, Zac soloing down Infernal. It's not Olaf, which the last time we saw Raze soloing down an Infernal.
Songwon going the wrong way. He's heading up towards the top lane. And that is going to be a nice play by Raze.
Kongdoo fans
pick it up.
Hyped about that Infernal. Understandably.
I mean, they got Fiora, they got Ryze, and they got Caitlyn. So if they can make it to the late game, that's going to be a fun Drake for them.
It's taking a lot of poke, as players have been telling me when I speak to them that they've been preferring the Azir side of the Azir-Ryze matchup recently. So another one of these matchups that's taken on a couple of different spins this season. Gnar vs Gangplank was the first one, where Gangplank quite quickly ended up being the lane winner by halfway through the season, and it seems like people are preferring the Azir. The flexibility the Azir provides over the Ryze more recently. But probably going to be a pretty quiet game, as ROX is not in killer form, and that means they may end up playing with their food, although Lava is on quite the roam.
Yeah, that blasting plant not getting him over the wall was actually fantastic. The flash taunt, and he's in a lot of trouble here. Can easily set this up with Lava waiting for that flash. Not using it yet, but there's the flash. Emperor's Divide, but Lava in a lot of trouble here, looking to trade a kill back. And Songyun also taking some damage. Key easily taunts away from that kidnap that was never going to go off, as the taunt did come up eventually. So they trade 1-for-1 in the bot lane.
Taunt flash was invested, and it only got a 1-for-1 through all of it. Soul keeps up his flash. Both AD carries do. Ends up going very even. So Lava, with the big roam to make that happen, is turned on. Ryze gets free time to push in the minion wave. Only good news story for the side of ROX is that Songwon was able to pick up the experience. It's been a bit of an interesting game so far. Here's the replay. Like you mentioned, didn't get the full distance, so when able to gank this lane as early as possible. Lava was very good with the Soldier and the Q auto here to be able to lead Secret. Still had to use his flash, and that ended up being his demise. Wanted to be a bit more shallow in the engage, and ends up being a 1-for-1.
Don't see level 6 Azir roams all too often, but they called for it down in the bottom lane. You were mentioning how that's always going to be pushing down there against the Shen, and the Caitlyn is always a lane bully, so trying to get the lane back into a decent spot, but still Songyun is about 20 CS behind, so we'll see if maybe that can be turned around in the future, but so far looking good for Kongdoo.
And it's a bit of future gazing for both ROX and Kongdoo Monster. Roach will take every trade and wonder how the game will be when he has Ravenous Hydra and a Trinity Force. And Songyun is looking at his support Shen and saying, well, I hope you make something happen elsewhere, because in my lane, it's not going to lead to too much now that your flash is down. So maybe we can look into the future as well, Valdez. And we weren't able to confirm it last time we were on stream, but it has, of course, been announced that SpoTV will be doing their first ever LCK Grand Final in Busan.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's actually going to be my my second LCK final.
Wait, what?
Which might sound weird, but I actually did the one in 2012.
Who did you cast
in the summer? I casted with Doublelift and what's that other game? Mold Trap, actually.
Those are some names.
A name from the past. I'm sure you guys all know Doublelift, but it was fun. I was just a fill-in back then. They needed someone extra, and I was there. Did about half of Season 2 in 2012, and that's how I got my start as a caster, actually.
Raze.
Speaking of which, we got to cast the game. Raze in a lot of trouble here. Aftershock gonna help him out a bit, but the Shen coming on in, and the stun onto Edge means that he will go down. And another gank that goes awry here for Kongdoo.
Nice decisive stuff for the side of ROX Tigers as Songwon came in at the perfect time. They pick up a kill through mid. Rise goes down. Lava already had boots too, so he had no problems setting that up on his side. And that's the sort of playmaking you need to vindicate the Shen pick. Doesn't help the Xayah in the laning phase. We're going to watch the replay. This is all started by Raze, but scouted out by Songwon. Songwon was ahead of the play. He was at the turret waiting for this to happen, for either lane gank or a counter gank. ROX Tigers can outnumber, and Secret and Soul complete the Abyssal Voyage, but they're not as fast as ROX. They didn't predict that Songwon would be in position and ready to go.
Yeah, just sitting in the lane, not something you see every day, was unfortunate anti-timing for Kongdoo Monster. Raze, though, getting quite aggressive in that lane. Did miss onto Lava, but still went for a play before eventually realizing, oh crap, I'm in some trouble. Ended up baiting his mid laner Edge into his own trouble. So maybe he can make a play up towards the top side, which is where he's looking right now, but Linderong actually just backs off of the lane, not sticking around.
Raze just tries to leap away from the Gnar, who just pushes up a ward and wants epic safety against the Zac as a control ward, but now also can spot over the wall, so not going to be any value there. They already had a ward on the Krug, so they had a pretty good idea that Raze would be on the top side of the jungle. Return to the laning phase. Songyun again is still not having any fun in. Trying for an all-in, though.
Oh, he gets devoured mid-taunt. Onto a trap he goes, and Key's going to go down. Just another mistake in the laning phase. We've seen this a lot against Tahm Kench specifically. Lava does dodge it once again. Someone with his ultimate up. Perhaps thinking about a return, but doesn't go for it.
And I made the joke about scaling supports in a recent match, and Shen really does represent that. His laning phase is nothing to write home about. He walks up, he doesn't have flash up, and dies to the very nice devour into trap play happening from Kongdoo Monster. Doesn't seem to know his role, needs to be more defensive than he's being. And it's just too easy for the side of Kongdoo.
Yeah, we've seen Key play Shen twice, and he did win both of those games, so does have a winning record, but perhaps he wasn't going up against specifically this lane, because certainly seems like he's not respecting the Caitlyn Tahm Kench. But I think after dying like that, you just have to back off and say, okay, all right, I'm not going to be aggressive in the lane anymore. But Raze may change that here, as this ward is going to be shot down, and now he's in the brush.
See Songyun and Key already backing away. They know Raze's bottom side, so not going to be a gank there, but Raze is just here to heat pressure. They want to take bot lane out of turret pre 13 minutes, and with no commitment from Lava, they're going to get it.
That they will. You'll notice this top turret is also very, very low. And ROX, they were thinking about a response up to the top side. This is eventually going to go down. First blood turret goes over to Kongdoo, though, in the bottom side. Someone looking to trade it back, though, with the Rift Herald play. Should be spotted out by Roach here, though. Let's see if they can respond.
We didn't have vision toggle there, but I imagine that he was able to see. Linderon can walk over and has the Black Cleaver to help him DPS down the Rift Herald. No priority on the bot side for Kongdoo Monster on the Drake. This went for the preferential recall time, and for now at least, Caitlyn and Tahm Kench just returning to bot lane, despite it being a pushing build from the Caitlyn, the Shiv, and the BF sword.
Well, they're coming over towards the Cloud Drake first. Could get a very early Drake stacking play going with some of that extra control in the bottom side. Pick up a quick Cloud Drake and then try to hope that something better spawns. But so far not going for it. Want to push up the lane first.
So far, the picks that were picked for the early game laning are ahead as you would expect. So on paper, the drafts are gone the way you would have expected. Gnar having a fun time against Fiora. Solo taking the turret. The Gnar is going to be loaded with gold. Caitlyn also winning lane as they turn on to Linderon. This could be turned here.
Yeah, they missed pretty much everything there. Nice dodge by Linderon to get out of trouble.
To me, it's harder for a Gnar to spread his lead than most top laners because Gnar is so situational. So many things have to come together for Gnar to be a teleport champion in the Mega Gnar timing, for example. That a one-item Gnar does struggle to make the side lane plays to really spread his lead, but the Caitlyn is more straightforward. Walks into a lane, you outnumber because you rotated first after you took the turret, and Shiv into Piltover Peacemaker into turret taking is a pretty easy assignment for the Caitlyn. So we'll see if they're able to do that early enough as ROX Tigers trying to answer the Caitlyn with a Rift Herald.
Yeah, they got 5 members here in the mid lane as Kongdoo Monster not able to respond just yet, but ROX has to be careful. This could be turned around, but Ray's on a ward there is spotted. Looking to get this first turret down. They can't quite do it just yet, but eventually they do push it down after doing a bit of damage to Soul.
With some very nice control wards on both sides of mid lane, meaning they were able to spot out the members of Kongdoo at every moment. Consider the lead in control wards. It's actually insane how much extra exclusive vision ROX Tigers have on the map. And that's with their duo lane being pushed in and losing first turret. So Kongdoo Monster just way behind in vision control, and even this Drake stacking seems impossible.
Well, they're going to throw an ultimate towards the Zac. Someone's pretty good at that. But after all, it might engage here. Looking for it. The flash stun from the Gnar kind of goes wide. Looking for the kidnap. They're going to get him, but Ray's getting low. Looking at the Fiora, finally does go down, and they couldn't take out the Zac. So far, just a 1-for-1. A bit of shuffling around, but no big advantage either way.
Definitely didn't get the big engage they expected with the Emperor's Divide. So 1-for-1 was far from what we were expecting when that fight was started by ROX. We were able to pick up the Drake, so the Cloud Drake taken away. Able to answer in the side lane as well. Vision now has been set up for the side of Kongdoo. It's a bit late. They weren't able to get the Drake, investing these control wards. 3 of them eventually placed in this area. So 225 gold invested. They lose the Drake, but it's not quite the team fight destruction that on first look with this Linderon engage it expected. Nice flash from Soul stops that from happening, and there's actually a bit of negative synergy with the Emperor's Divide and the Gnar ultimate.
Fantastic riposte from Roach, but he just overstays a little bit too long as well. He timed it perfectly with the Emperor's Divide, just stuck through it all. But in the end, does go down. But yeah, definitely does prove he knows how to play the champion. So now he's sitting down here in the bottom side as Linderon is top. Kind of an interesting spot. It looks like ROX was responding heavily to the Caitlyn in the mid side. Don't want to let this push happen.
The way you play out this draft, as KT showed us with a successful SMEB game on Fiora, if you're Kongdoo Monster, is you send the Fiora to the side lane, isn't ahead in items, but has a Ravenous Hydra, so it's more self-sufficient now. And you trust in the 1v1 of the Fiora, and then you double down around where you're strong, which is the Caitlyn. And they also have Ryze to come for the semi-global. So it's very much about pushing in vision and trying to push down the outer ring of turrets in the 4v4 while trusting the Fiora in the side lane. But right now, ROX is actually first on the invade. Their control ward vision has been superior so far in the game, and they're being defensive with the Caitlyn Ryze. does end up not lending itself to getting any map control, which you desperately want when you have this pushing Caitlyn build, and the Caitlyn being the only person on the side of Kongdoo Monster who has a real lead. The 2 items have come very early for Sol with 100% kill participation, but it doesn't matter if he's just trading farm with either the with either the Xayah or the Azir.
Yeah, I mean, Lava and Songyun themselves having a pretty good score so far. I mean, also, Lava does have the highest farm in the game, as well as 100% kill participation, so that Azir already looking scary. We'll see if he goes for that Rylai's, as we did see earlier from Faker. Definitely would be nice for allowing Gnar and Sejuani, and of course, the Xayah to get in position a little bit better.
Seems to be going for the Oblivion Orb first into the Morellonomicon. There is going to be a lot of healing on the side of Kongdoo Monster, so this is the sort of game where there's actually a really big buff on a second item onto the Azir. Usually it would be the Liandry's, which is still very powerful against the Zac and Tahm Kench. But my belief is that Morellonomicon and the instant on-hit Grievous Wounds coming in against Zac Fiora could be a teamfight winner from the start, and you can basically chain it to be consistently applied, those 3-second Grievous Wounds from the first Azir Q. So team-wide Grievous Wounds this game is a really big thing for Lava to have early, and it should be a 22-minute pickup for the Azir.
Yeah, it does make sense. We'll see what he goes into afterwards. Not every mid laner subscribes to the Crown line of thinking, which is just as much AP as possible. Obviously, different builds here on Azir. Lava thinking about trying to go for a gank onto Roach here, but the turret is still up with wards to see him. So, not going to go for the 2v1 just yet.
Just chancing himself. He push out mid lane, so doesn't lose any turret HP from the move. Kongdoo Monster, you know, we've kind of unfortunately been... The biggest kind of point of discussion with Kongdoo Monster has been them drafting strong comps and not being able to pull them off as... Well, it's going to end up blowing the cleanse onto Edge. This is another one of those cases where you can see the flaws in the game plan of Kongdoo Monster that separates them from some of the better teams in the LCK. They need to get something around Sol, but they're not empowering him to move forward, and thus Sol is only splitting farm with the underfed members of ROX Tigers.
Kongdoo Monster trying to set up a play, looking for that long rune prison as well as the kidnap. Here comes Tahm Kench, and that's 4 members. Oh boy, the headshot onto Songyun, and now Raze trying to get into the back line. But the taunt is going to come in onto Raze and trying to get that Emperor's Divide. Is Lava, but he goes down in the back line as Roach makes it over with the TP. Now Linderon stuck for what seems like days on trap is being caught up to by Roach.
Here's Raze.
They're just charging into them right now. Roach with not a care in the world, able to pick up a second kill. Let's see where they go from here.
And ROX Tigers makes the big mistake, choose the wrong fight, where Sol is able to free hit first in Azir, then other members of ROX Tigers. Too easy for him. And this could be a Kongdoo Monster Baron.
It's looking like an easy one, Papa, as Sungwon gives it up. They lose 2 members, and they'll have to take the consolation Mountain Drake. That's all they can get at this point. ROX Tigers, bit of a mistake. Kongdoo Monster actually making something of it, looking a lot better.
You just watch the replay and consider what ROX are trying to do. So they know that Sungwon's here. The opening damage is going to mean much. They're outnumbered. So obviously ROX get a bit desperate because they're in a bad spot. But the instant that Songyun is DPS'd out, you need to not be committing to this fight if you're ROX Tigers. Songyun is never going to be a big damage threat. Try to make in a big streamer shuffle play, but he gets crit in the face by Sol, who's been able to do nothing with his items for the last 5 minutes. Seems to have baited ROX Tigers into thinking they were stronger than they were. If the stretching strikes had actually hit from Raze, it could have been 3 kills, but 2 kills in a Baron, basically gifted to the side of Kongdoo Monster, because ROX Tigers misjudged how strong they were. They needed to disengage the first time that headshot crit went over onto Songyun.
Certainly some of the weak play we've seen from their series against MVP and other weaker teams that has come back to bite them in the butt because, I don't know, they look so clean and focused when they're playing against strong teams, but then they go into a series against Kongdoo and it's almost like they're not as focused. They're not as determined to make sure they're making 0 mistakes. And You can't let up against anyone. I mean, Kongdoo's 10th in LCK, but they're still in LCK, and they make it back over and over. They're not a terrible team. They're certainly someone you have to take seriously. And here's to hoping ROX can turn it around and focus a bit more.
Weird thing about ROX is it feels like a lot of communication problems because the comms in that fight should be Sangyu saying, I'm out, I can't do damage, and then people disengaging, but Lava went straight in 3 to 4 seconds later. So clearly there's some mixed comms on a roster that hasn't been playing Kuzan or Mighty Bear. They have played only 2 games on the entire season. Games, not matches. They've stuck with this lineup, but they move on to 8.4, and they seemed a bit underprepared for that patch when they played on the first day. Now we're 2 weeks in, and there seems to be other problems rearing for ROX Tigers, who really are now on the edge of losing their playoff spot and re-inviting SKT to make it to playoffs.
I thought for a second ROX was going to commit to that Drake, and if that had happened, I would have said, well, they're not fixing anything. Certainly at this point in the game, not going to be able to rush that down with everybody rotating. We saw what the Fiora was able to do in the top lane. Eventually takes out the first blood turret with the help of Baron and makes it look easy as Linderong just backs off after that.
A lot of backing off on both sides, though. Not been a massive Baron buff power play. It's early enough into the game that there's no Banner of Command, which only now finished on the Tahm Kench on this recall. So there's going to be one Banon wave, if any, for them to try to break the mid lane. You look at the side of ROX Tigers, they can throw a boomerang, and Sangyoon can pass through some damage, but they don't have the easiest time dealing with the Banon minion. It'll be our last Banon minions in this series, as the synergy definitely takes a step down on patch 8.5.
Yeah. Excited to get to that one, if we do have it on Tuesday. Wouldn't expect it, but hey, you never know.
There's our Banon minion. We're going to call it Cougar.
Okay, I like that, yeah. A little bit of a tribute to men who have come and gone.
What are you doing, Cougar? Why did he go so far in?
Where'd he go?
Gugu's positioning really let down Kongdoo Monster in that particular engage.
You know, it's not the first time, actually. I don't know, that was weird. I think it lost Baron, rather. And so it went a little bit too close.
Oh, Gugu.
Yeah, poor guy. We'll see if...
I mean, Gugu just ran it down at the end there, which you don't want to see. Hopefully no competitive rulings for that one.
I mean, Kongdoo's even in a good spot. He was doing that. You got to be careful about your plays.
Here is the match. As it was well controlled by ROX Tigers until that Baron answered all of the gold. And they haven't really been able to open a lead. Consider that they're equal in gold after picking up the Baron. So the Baron buff power play certainly wasn't anything to write home about. The Fiora is 3-1, but wasn't really impacting the map that much with the Baron buff. Now no longer has Baron, does have 2 items. So let's see if he can actually put some hurt onto the Gnar to justify the Fiora draft that we've been very critical about multiple weeks in a row.
Well, things are definitely looking good for Roach up there. I mean, he's sitting at 3-1 overall, just finished his Trinity Force. He's going up against that Bramble Vest on the side of Gnar. Definitely a good pickup against the Fiora, necessary. But the push coming in, it looks like actually Seongwon is going to be the guy that helps out, but he's spotted on a ward over there, so gives a lot of time for Kongdoo to just run through the enemy jungle and say, all right, we're going to take all the vision over here if you're going to give it to us.
See the new H build coming through, as Sangyoon is also following Bang's build of going for double Zeal item after the Essence Reaver. There is no damage amp coming through from the Shen. It's going to be the Knight's Vow there. Is trying to catch on to Secret. Wow. They really want this.
They're expending a lot of stuff to get onto the Tahm Kench, and it may end up working out here as the Sejuani ultimate comes through, but there's a play in the bottom side. This is a lot more important. Let's zoom in. I guess we're not going to, but it was a 2-on-1 on the bottom side as Rise, Edge actually making a good roam over there, and they do pick him up.
And 2 decisive calls, but the Realm Warp from Edge gets them the turret. We mentioned that with 2 items, the Fiora is ready to go. Builds for turret destruction with the Trinity Force. Because even though Gnar does straddle the line, isn't a true tank, so the Black Cleaver not as necessary. Goes for the recall, and okay, Kongdoo Monster, now you know where you're strong. Let's see if the next Baron setup can be there. Because if they get 3 control wards on and around the Baron, while Fiora is threatening the inhibitor turret, there's not a lot of good decisions for the side of ROX Tigers to make.
Well, we're going to get a replay here. Just Linderong not expecting the Rise to come in.
He knew about it, but by the time he knew about it, Roach is strong enough to go for a full-on turret dive. They use double flash, but they get him very trivially because of all the damage stacked onto the Fiora. We'll wait and see if it's a Bloodthirster or a Guardian Angel with the BF sword, but either way, it's going to be pain for the Gnar. Kongdoo Monster, you look at their inventories, they have the control wards. Let's wait and see where they place them, because Baron control is what they desperately need.
Well, something that's available to Kongdoo is another Realm Warp. They could just try to go for it again, but Linderong, not sure what he was doing that far down the lane. You got to be really careful about that.
The issue you always have is you would see Rise grouped with his team, so where is Rise? He has to be bot side. Looking for a lane gank, so it's pretty easy to problem solve that one. If you're Linderong, he gets the confirmation now.
It's kind of an interesting spot because even though it's 2-on-1 on the bottom side, they're not necessarily going to be able to rush down the Baron.
They also don't have much vision, so they have to respect, but we're going to see a bit of a seesaw. The vision gets cleared out. Wait and see if Kongdoo Monster can problem solve this one, because we mentioned when Fiora is strong enough, you make the right decisive call, and you should be able to profit from it. You don't feel strong enough to start the Baron, even though Raze has war marks. As Azir is there, so they should definitely be on the Baron.
Yeah. Here we go again. TP is up for Edge. It's going to be started up here. Let's see if he actually does TP in. So far, going to be a 3-on-3, but Lava has walked over, so they will pull off of the Baron.
They're continuing with this lane assignment, but ROX could just initiate. They're 4v3 now. That was a bit late, but I understand the thought.
Yeah, oh, they're going to go in onto Linderong again. Realm Warp is actually going to come through in the face of the Shen ultimate here. Edge, surprisingly tanky on the Rise.
This game is so messy right now. Roach is still very, very strong. They start the Baron again.
Here we go again.
This game is feeling like it's going to be absolutely taken over. The damage over the wall from Lava is huge.
Azir is insane. Someone is diving on in, but the heal is going to keep Soul alive, but they're going to leave Secret to the Wolves on the backside as they couldn't get away. Soul going to kite that there for some lifesteal, but here comes Songyun. They want to get the kill as well. A couple of crits might do it. Bladecaller coming in, and then the flash is going to take him down. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, we still have a 2-on-2. This is not the League of Legends that I know. Watching a different type of game here, as 3-on-3 and 2-on-2 is definitely not the standard, but it's working out for Kongdoo as they're getting that very low, the inhibitor as well as Linderong.
Now notice, we can't see it on screen right now, but Zac is actually there. With Warmark's been able to heal up, he's going for this.
Oh, that's not going to work. He's in there very, very low, but he gets popped in the end. Just a very small amount early on that one. Emperor's Divide doesn't work, but in the end, no steal.
Neither of the junglers use Smite on the Baron. What is going on in this game? Kongdoo Monster could have absolutely claimed the Baron. The moment that Shen ults onto the Gnar, teleport over, your Rise would teleport into the backline, would have been able to fight 4v4. Instead, they left Soul to the wolves. Kongdoo Monster's play around Baron was something we noticed and criticized in the MVP series earlier this week. It leaves them a lot to be desired. They had a stacked deck. They actually had the whole cam and knew what the cards were for ROX Tigers, and they still don't pick up the Baron. And that might condemn them because they were very far ahead in the early game, but 31 minutes in, ROX against the flow have the Baron and are now ready to have their turn at a Baron buff power play.
We'll take another look here. It's just the Azir damage is way too much, and the knockup from the Baron. They just get caught off guard, and after this, they eventually get a couple of kills, so it works out.
But if you take a pause, as they're starting the Baron, notice they have a minion wave pushing in top. They have a Fiora in the bot lane ready to go. They don't use any of that and just opt into this extended Baron force they did not need to go for. ROX going to push through the mid lane. They've got the Baron minion. Realm Warp with the minions, so they're trying to race them here at Kongdoo Monster.
Why not in this game?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Exactly.
Some crazy stuff has been happening, and you might as well. The 2-on-2 is working out in Kongdoo Monster's favor, at least in that lane. So let's see. We're going to have Azir go back, but already the turret is going down. ROX Tigers, of course, going to have the advantage in the push in mid lane. They do effectively push them back on the top side here. trying to make a case to fight back in the mid lane, actually, is Kongdoo Monster, and neither inhibitor is going to go down.
And that ended up being a good move. They don't lose the inhibitor, like you say. They're actually forcing against Baron in a different way than every other team, because you think, what is the counter to Baron if you don't have something like the minion dematerializer? It's force a fight. Actually going for this sort of a split push with the Rise and the Fiora this time was intelligent. They do pick up an advantage from it and cancel out a lot of the Baron buff here from the side of ROX Tigers. They'll fall back, they'll pick up a Mountain Drake. Somehow we're all equal in gold and amount of Drakes. It's been a strange 33 minutes, and no one really to put up their hand and show us who's going to win game one.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's actually been a lot of fun to cast this weird and wild game, but as you said, like, ROX are not making a strong case to say we are the better team in this series. I mean, they certainly look like it, but
all I'm going to say,
they always go down to the level of the team they're playing against, and it's frustrating.
And the result of that is usually when we talk about Korean macro, we talk about the 4-dimensional chess. It feels like we're playing 4-dimensional snakes and ladders here, or shoots and ladders, depending on where you come from. It's been a little bit all over the place. Both teams, especially Kongdoo Monster, should have made better decisions, but given they haven't found themselves in the position of being ahead with a whole smorgasbord of things to win, I guess we can't be that surprised.
Okay, well, some communication issues as Roach and Ed say, hey, come up, and then Secret goes in, and then they back off. They're like, haha, we tricked you again. Secret has been kind of the sacrifice in a bunch of these fights so far.
So where is the game at? We can take a step back. Right now the action isn't happening. Baron doesn't spawn for a while. The inhibitor in bot lane has been down for a while, and so far Nara is answering it. Do notice that Nara is building entirely for the team fight, because no amount of items will help him to beat the Fiora in the 1v1. So does now have a nice stack of armor and magic resist. ROX are hoping they can force a 5v5, because 5v5, there is ways to overcome the Fiora and actually win the game, but that should never be allowed. Kongdoo Monster can just send just the Fiora, play with the Rise grouped with the 4, and stop ROX from either starting a Baron or winning an outnumbered fight. So the Fiora needs to be in the side lane, either killing Linderong or forcing him to recall at every moment, and at the same time they need to be making smart vision decisions around Baron. At the moment they have the control what's in the inventory to Kongdoo Monster, but with the Baron still a couple minutes to be spawned, we're just farming, we're getting our items in order, the game's slowing down, but the big objectives, the Elder and the Baron, is probably where this game will truly be decided.
That it will, eventually, and you'll notice that Edge is coming down into the bottom lane once again. They know the timer on the inhibitor, so thinking about another 2-on-2 play in the bottom side.
And now it's fine. There's nothing else on the map for the Rise to play around, so can go for this gimmicky piggyback strategy.
Certainly feels like Kongdoo Monster are playing with a bit more flair today. I mentioned it in the beginning of the cast that they don't really have much to lose anymore. They're already in relegations. Why not have Roach play Fiora when he hasn't played it all season? Oh. Red stolen away by Songyun here, but so far Roach has been making a decent case to say, hey, I actually do have the ability to play these more difficult, more mechanical champions.
With the stacked minion waves, ROX can actually move and know they'll outnumber in many scenarios. Lava spot on a ward, but Roach trying to teleport out.
Should be able to here in the Nara bar. Not going to be able to build up fast enough. Again, no Baron, no objective to go for just yet.
Pretty costly though, because with now no teleport up, cannot actually play a side lane against Linderong. Kind of has to group with her team, which, as we know, is very tricky to pull off with the Fiora. They've got some deep vision right now. The single ward that's behind the red buff for ROX Tigers is a very nice flanking ward for Edge to come off. Usually the play here, if you're a blue side team with Rise, is to invade for vision, try to force the enemy back and send someone to, say, threaten the top or the bot lane inhibitor, then Realm Warp onto Baron and burn it. That's usually what you want to do as the Rise in this particular game. We'll see if they have enough vision and enough tactical nous to make that play. As again, it's not really been Kongdoo Monster ready to go for these Baron baits.
Yeah, they're certainly trying new ideas here that other teams in LCK don't really do too often. generally you'd see Edge go up into the top side, play more of a 1-3-1 if you have the Rise with the Fiora, the two pushing lanes, but they decide, hey, we're going to bring in the new meta, 0-3-2. So far, it's had mixed results.
And Fiora shows with no teleport, so of course ROX starts the Baron.
Yeah, they're just going to start it here. It's going to be up to Raze with the steal, and he cannot get it. The damage from Soul is pretty huge. They're going to get lava here at least. Double flash from ROX Tigers saying, we want none of this fight. Oh boy, Soul just face checks in the brush. He's going to be taken out. Now Raze getting too low, uses his stopwatch just to delay a little bit. We got to push in the bot lane. Keep in mind that multi-view, but here comes Key to make a case to stop this, and now Roach in a lot of trouble. There's the ultimate, gets taken out. Will Edge be caught here? We have the Xayah on the way as well.
Frozen Mallet on the Gnar as well.
Yeah, no way for him to get out of this one. He's going to even burn his flash to try to get away. The slows are coming in. Songyun will eventually pick up the kill, so everything falling apart for Kongdoo.
Oh, certainly it was. The riposte was available and not used on the taunt from Key. Desperately needed that. Gave up his whole health bar for free. I think ROX Tigers just wins in this play, Valdez.
Well, it was exciting while it lasted, Papa. I certainly enjoyed this game. New strategies, crazy things happening on the Rift, but now we do have this final push coming on in.
Now Soul has respawned, has his flash up. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what he can do, but the dodge circle going to come in, and the Gnar in the front line just trying to delay and push him out of the way. Zac now really huge, actually providing a lot of CC, but the ultimate going to come in, and goodbye, Soul. You're going to get off the Rift. Songyun just kiting everybody to death now, and that's going to be game number 1 going over the ROX Tigers finally after 39 minutes.
That was a game, Valdez. Many things happened in this game. This was the popcorn movie of the week. Turn off your brain, enjoy the explosions and the outplays. Don't try to overthink the macro decisions because we had almost no macro happening by Kongdoo Monster.
They certainly weren't thinking about it either, Papa.
We shouldn't give it more respect than they did. They weren't thinking, we weren't thinking, it's fine.
Yeah.
ROX Tigers pick up the victory, and SKT fans will be frustrated because game score could be relevant when we calculate who goes forward. And ROX Tigers steal one away and beat Kongdoo Monster.
Certainly, if played absolutely correctly from there and a lot less mistakes, Kongdoo Monster were in a great spot to actually take that game. Their Caitlyn was beginning to pop off, and Rise was getting strong, but either way, ROX Tigers not looking great in the first 30 minutes of the game. Decide, hey, we're actually going to take this game back. They handled the weird shenanigans, the hullabaloo from the Kongdoo Monster side, and I don't know. I kind of just felt like they were having fun, Kongdoo Monster. They were just doing whatever they felt like.
I mean, right now it looks like someone stole their lunch money, so maybe the fun was short-lived after the defeat is confirmed. And Kongdoo Monster have to do it all over again in the second series. Going to get the replay. This is because of the piggyback. The Fiora can't be there. They do invest Raze's life to try and get the steal. I think if you're going to make this play, you pull away and you give up the Baron. Soul gets the first kill, and you might think it's okay. And then he, as 650 range Caitlyn, just donates his life to the side of ROX Tigers. Here is my tribute to your playoff run. Please enjoy the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't like SKT anyway.
The biggest SKT hater on the Rift is actually Soul, as he contributes to the win in the end, but
oh dear.
Yeah, just getting a little bit too excited. We've seen that before here in LCK. Either way, guys, we're going to go to a break before game number 2. Hopefully it's even more fun. We'll see you in a bit.